Hi, in today's tech documentary, light versus heavy wheels. Which one is the fastest? Which one is the most reliable? Does wheel weight impacts performance of the suspension? And last question, does it make sense to spend money into wheels? A preliminary but necessary thanks must be sent to all my sponsors who made this possible, such as Banshee Bikes, Crank Brothers, Bike Yoke, ProGrip, Become Unique, AVS and Garbarook. And for this particular research, an highlighted thanks goes to Kenda for sending over all the rubbers, and to the most important partner for this particular research. I'm talking about Pyrope from Germany, who provided a high-end further light wheelset vital part to perform this test. And in regards Pyrope, stay focused, because at some point I will drop a discount code. I start with some classical theory. I want to make sure all of you remember the basics. Sprung mass and unsprung mass. What the hell are these things? Well, on mountain bikes, two are the groups of masses. First, the sprung masses are all the bike's components which are installed above the suspension springs. This includes most of your frame, controls, saddle, seat posts, the upper fork back attached to the frame, head tube, crankset pedals, and as well some other minor stuff too. And second, these unsprung masses are all the parts that hang below the suspension springs. So the fork lowers, some bits of your shocks, the wheels, axle, brake calipers, rotor frame, rear swing arm too, linkages, tires, tubes, rear mech cassette, and so on. The more significant, heavier component of the sprung mass group is the frame, while the more significant component of the unsprung mass group is the sub-assembly called wheels. With the wall wheels, a complete riding thing, the so-called wheel set, hub, spokes and rim, plus tires, sealant, valves, disc and cassette. Formula 1, MotoGP and rally cars, motocross, everyone knows that light wheels is the best choice, but mountain bikers still seems not to be bothered too much about this, neither educated I would think. So it's very important to make the unsprung masses light, but yeah, several are the reasons why motorsports universally determined and went lightweight, but two are the most important reasons that should bother a lot any mountain biker. Better suspension performance and faster acceleration. The lower the weight of the wheels, the quicker the suspension react to bumps, increasing the grip, your grip. Analyzing the billion of informations I recorded with the data acquisition logger during the field test, which I will show you later, I was able to decrypt that with light wheels, suspension uses less travel for a given impact, keeps higher the dynamic sag, so the bike stays more high, and the wheels return faster to ground after a square edge hit, no matter rebound settings. With light wheels, softer settings can be used, and there is no need of increasing the spring rate, the progression, all that stuff to prevent diving or bottom out. Last but not least, with light wheels, there is less temperature builds up in the suspension, and this is mostly due to the law of Lavoisier, since light mass means less energy to be converted, managed and dissipated. With heavy wheels instead, more compression and less rebound are necessary to prevent loss of dynamic sag, packing, and to avoid frequent bottom out. The suspension velocity is affected by the wheel's weight, but this is something too long and not really useful to explain today, so I will skip it for now. Expensive data acquisition, system, scientific math, algorithms, and a lot of theories and a dose of human knowledge demonstrate this concept, but if you prefer a practical way, I have it for you. Grab Grab a 1 kilogram barbell and move it around like this, randomly, fast, with sharp, erratic movements, including some quick, brutal stops and restarts. Repeat the same now with a heavier weight, like a 10 kilogram barbell. Would you think would be easier to move around the heavier or the lighter mass? Another example, same concept, is the medicine ball. Grab and throw a big medicine ball, 2 from a friend in your gym. One ball is 1K, the other one is heavier, is 10K. Which one you think you could receive and launch to your friend again with less fatigue and precision and efficiency? The heavier or the lightest, ball? The weight management and therefore concept applies to mountain bikes wheels too. The wheels are masses controlled by the suspension, so the lighter these masses, the wheels are, the less effort your suspension does to manage them. The point number 2, faster acceleration. Wheels are not only masses hang below the frame, because when they are spinning, they become some magic things, something that physicians call flywheels and gyroscopes. A flywheel is a mechanical device that uses the conservation of angular momentum to store rotational energy, a form of kinetic energy proportional to the product of this moment of inertia and its square of its rotational speed. A gyroscope is a device with a spinning disc or wheel mechanism that harnesses the principle of conservation of angular momentum and energy. Well, I've got everything here, so if you want to see what Wikipedia says, I've got the flywheel and the gyroscope. But what the f*** all this scientific crap means, I make it simple for you. The flywheel and the gyroscope, Bruceman edition. A flywheel is a rotating element that builds up and stores kinetic energy when rotates. I call the flywheel the speed stabilizer. There are 2 flywheels in mountain bikes, the front and the rear wheel. The flywheel energy, aka the strength, increases either if the weight of the wheel it's damn heavier, and or if dimension of the wheel is greater, and or if the revolution of the wheel are faster, greater. So, for instance, we could achieve the same flywheel strength by a very light wheel, but big in diameter, spinning even very fast, or like the 32 inches crab that some idiot tried to promote and invent for mountain biking. Yes, that's too heavy. And or an heavy wheel, small in diameter, for instance a bulky 27.5 downhill specs that spins very fast. But the question is, should you prefer to ride strong or weak flywheels for mountain bike riding? Well, frankly, mountain bike, it's a sport where continued variation of speed on the trails happen. So if the flywheels are heavier, aka stronger, more energy is always required each time we want to start rotating the wheels from 0, and greater are the energy required also for each variation of the speed, and this means accelerating or decelerating. The energy required to change the flywheel speed in mountain bike does not come for free, sadly, and it's always created by your legs. So with a heavier flywheel, you always have to do a lot of more fatigue to, let's say you're riding 20k per hour, you want to accelerate to 25, so this variation of speed from 20 to 25 requires some energy. And with heavy wheels, you must use more of your physical resources to get your bike accelerated from 20 to 25. Repeat this variation for the million of times you change speed in your riding day, and you get a sense of why the lightweight flywheels always make your days easier and more funny. As said, more energy is also required to stop the wheels once it's up to speed, but this task does not belong to your legs. Instead, it belongs to the brake system driven by your hands, forearms and fingers. So with the heavier flywheels, more work from the brakes is required, and this means your hands and fingers may get fatigued earlier in the ride because you have to pull more force on the levers and to get the big mass stopped for a given braking system. Of course, if you install a better braking system, it's going to be better, but the concept doesn't change. I mean, several times I've seen people swearing against their brakes, like, what the fuck? I've seen them buying bigger rotors. They actually add more weight to the system, increasing the flywheel effect, so things becomes even worse. Point two, the gyroscope. What the hell is the gyroscope? The Rusman edition. The gyroscope, it's a direction stabilizer. Gyroscope is a mechanical element that keeps its orientation in space once it's up to a certain revolution, and it fights against any external elements that wants to change its orientation. The stronger is the gyroscope, the greater is the force required to change its direction in space. And that's why I call the gyroscope the direction stabilizer. Did you ever do that experiments in physics class where you held a spinning bicycle wheel like this and tried to turn it while the wheel was rotating quite quick? Well, it's almost impossible to turn it without getting your arms being pulled all over the places. It's all equal and opposite reaction things going on there. When the wheels on your bikes are spinning, the same things happen. The heavier the wheels are, and or the faster they spin, and or the bigger they are, the worse the gyroscope effect is. Make lighter your rotating masses, your bike will turn in quicker, will be easier to recover from a washout, easy to bunny up, easy to manual, and so on. Both the wheels on the mountain bikes are gyroscopes, but when they are spinning, of course, but the most important is always the front wheel. When riding, you have to fight against the front gyroscope to make the bike to turn, and even if at low speed, the heaviest front wheel won't actually feel too bad. As the speed rises, the gyroscope gains strength, and so it makes harder and harder to ride, to steer. A lighter front wheels makes everything easier for you, and the benefits in your riding precision and in endurance, yours. If you're working harder to make the bike turn with heavy wheels, you get sooner tired, and if it's easier, you get off your bike feeling fresher than the rest of your riding makes, which are on heavy wheels. Ride longer, ride safer, the light wheel wins again. Light wheels have also a downside, of course, as anything on planet. I always want to be frank and impartial. The light stuff is usually less strong, and dynamically it creates weaker gyroscopes forces, so they lose a little bit of longitudinal stability when riding at really high speed. But there's a very clever way to counterbalance this, and if you increase the wheelbase and slack out the head angle in this way, you have both the side of the coin. You've got a nimble, easy to ride bike due to the low energizable gyroscopes, light wheels, but you're still keeping a very good direction stability at high speed due to the proper modern geometries. You want some number? Let's nerd out. A good wheelbase for a grown man like me, 179 tall, could be like 1300 millimeters of wheelbase, and head angle something like 63 degrees. Still far from what the markets promote to you, but anyway, these numbers are actually what I would like to see on any bike from XC, trail, enduro, and of course downhill, even longer on downhill. So till now you heard what flywheels and gyroscopes are, which are your wheels. And are you aware that mountain bikes are a sport with a very limited power? This is you with 250 watts. This is the CRF 450, 52 horsepower, and then you've got the Porsche 911 GT3 RS with 500 horsepower. This is the average trained cyclist, a third of an horsepower, so let's say a third against 52, and the GT3 RS 500. So these are the numbers. They all use light wheels, even if they have a huge amount of power. But why mountain bikers still don't care too much about wheels weight? I mean, something's wrong here. Are Porsche and Honda stupids, or all the cyclists are stupids? To be efficient and fast in mountain biking, we really need to be fit and light as a primary goal, that's for sure, but we also need to use the lightest wheel that we can use. We gotta find that magic, precise spot of where things are extremely light, but they are still strong enough for our needs. Frankly, I'm not a liar. I mean, I would love if we could invent or find a wheels with, light as a sub 1 kilograms wheel set, strong as a 650B, sturdy rims with the grip of and protection of a triple ply 1.8 kilograms futuristic downhill soft compound tire, whatever. All this with the rolling efficiency of a 23 tubular tire on a race track inflated at 11 bars, but this will never become real. And since we are and will be always very limited power humans by DNA and genetics, we really have to find that magic spot where the things are light but still strong. And here it comes, the most hard part of the whole research I made, the challenge of finding the magic spot. Light as air, strong as steel. Everything at once. The producer should have solved this challenge years ago, I would say, but they always seems focused on selling things that don't break even if they are launched from 10 meters to flat, because they want no troubles. I mean, the companies, they don't know who you are, how you ride, how experienced you are, and what you do with the bike. I mean, they don't know how much uneducated you might be. There are a lot of stupids out there riding very low tire pressure. Those guys need motocross Tekazago XL rims, not mountain bike standards. I mean, I'm 100% with the companies on this prevention strategy and concept, you know what I mean? I mean, the companies must produce overly strong and beefy components to save their asses, but all this extra strength is not actually needed for the most educated and skilled riders of you. The good, the intelligent, the expert rider can ride faster and more efficiently if he stops to ride in unnecessary heavy stuff sold by the current mountain bike industry. Nothing else to say, right? All this talk seems a valid theory, right? It's just a theory. What about the real life, the real riding? There's only one way to discover if light it's really faster and to discover which is the sweet spot between lightness and strength. The practical test. I set up for the practical test 3 phases. Phase 1, the climb. Phase 2, the all day through mountain bike omnia riding up and down. Some marketing inventor called it trail or mountain nowadays. The newest guy said this is down country. Well, for fucking bullshit to me, it's ex-Euro. It's just mountain bike. And the phase 3, the descent. The bikes used for the test are my great high-end custom Banshee Titan RRT and Banshee Prime RRT, both equipped with the best-in-class, no hype, just performance, oriented components and suspension. If you want to know more about my two unique masterpieces, custom builds, please check my other videos here on my YouTube channel. I've got the link written down below for you. You can watch the complete bikes, dream build films, the bike checks, bike comparison, bike riding, and a lot of stuff more. Pyrope Germany sent over for the test a custom-made, very light 1.4 kilograms wheel set featuring the aerospace grade Pyrope textile spokes, good alloy rims, and this is very boutique high-end stuff. But I wanted to go even more all in, and frankly to risk more. And so I decided to put this in the workshop, and I wanted to utilize my other wheel set from Pyrope. This is my personal one, the further light 1 kilograms, sub 1 kilograms cross-country wheel set. That's crazy stuff, really. The heavier set in the test is a 2.3 kilograms strong, stiff and nearly unbreakable wheel set borrowed from a great friend from Hot Bikes, the shop in Pieta Ligure, near Finale Ligure. By the way, if you need some stuff when you are in the Finale Ligure outdoor region, check them out. A very top mountain bike store with a kind owner who is also a very fast true mountain biker. Check them out. I'm keeping hidden the brand and the model of the heavy wheel set because I have too much respect for any competitor out there, no matter if they produce crap. But with a weight of 2.3 kilograms, that wheel set is what is commonly found on several modern bikes, and it represents what most of you are actually using. Just a comment, I went for 29 because it's easy to cross-match and find parts, but in the real life, if I have to look for the ultimate efficiency and speed, I would definitely go for mallet since it's faster due to the less global, gyroscopic and flywheel effects. Tire-wise, I said I'm utilizing the Kendas, and I went full downhill casing, downhill specs, soft compound for the heavy wheel set. I'm talking about the Kenda Pinner and Kenda Hellcat 229 2.4 AGC, G means gravity. While for the light wheel set, I went for my daily light as Kenda Booster, which is this one in 29 2.2. This one is the TR. I'm using the SCT version for the test, still feather light. And in the front, I utilize my lovely Karma 2 29 2.2 tire. I marked and pinked the heavy wheel set so it's more visible for the camera recordings. I utilize the same disc on both the wheels, so this will be no factor. A couple of words on the cassette. I specifically wanted to install a heavy cassette on the heavy wheel set to increase even more the unsprung weight of the complete wheels, while for the light setup I kept installed my everyday high-end light 11-speed Gabberoo 10-50 premium stuff. Looking at the numbers, with the heavy wheel set rear came out at 3 kilograms 215, while the front is 2 kilograms 520, a total of 5.7 kilograms for a pair of wheels, complete with no insert, and I bet this is not far off from your average setup. If we look at the high-end setup instead, I've got kilogram 820 grams for the rear wheel, complete wheel, kilograms 265 grams from the front wheel. This is a total of 3 kilograms 85, which I will round at 3.1 kilograms. So 5.7 versus 3.1. This is almost 50% in difference between the two. Very wide and good, perfect for the test. For the practical test, almost everything was monitored and recorded, of course, data acquisition, GPS, cadence, speed, power, heart rate, infrared lap timers with gates were placed on the trail for precise timing. I work on 3 different scenarios for the test. The first one is the classical enduro liaison, a shallow gradient fire road. The second is a trail, a little bit more steep and with more difficult, keys that represent actually the ski section of your daily trail ride. And the third is an impossible climb, very steep, which would require near legs to get cleared. The climb first scenario, the uphill fire road, 28 meters of climbing, sort of a gravelish, 7% constant gradient, good back terrain. I've recorded 10 laps, the done 10 laps at 200 watts. The average time was 2 minutes 28. With the light wheels, the average speed was 10k, while here I've got the results for the same test with the heavy wheels. As we can see, still 200 watts in average. We've got this time with the heavy wheels 2 minutes 53 second average time, 8.7 average speed. If we compare light wheels versus the heavy, we can see easily that the wheels are 14% faster for a given power output over the heavy set. Well, a huge difference here, the very huge difference. Look at the number. I mean, 2 minutes 28, 2 minutes 53, there's a lot of difference for the same. Yeah, the heart rate was the same on both, so I didn't apply any increased effort riding the light wheels, and of course the watts are what counts more. The watts are the same, 200, so yeah, definitely light wheels are faster, 14% climbing the enduro classic liaison. Climb, second scenario, the steeper climb key section of a trail ride. Five to 20% variable gradient, loose rock and loose ground. For this scenario, it was impossible to keep constant the watts since too variable was the terrain and gradient. So I focused more on keeping the climbing momentum similar and applying the same perceived effort required to climb the section, to clear the section. 10 rounds light wheels, we could note the higher power output required to clear the section, 325 watts average for the light wheels with the sun peaks at over 500 watts, 542 average on 10 rounds to be precise. The time average sits at 23 seconds and 462 with a speed of 9.3 kilometers per hour and an average heart rate of 129. Heavy wheels on, 10 more laps. And here we can clearly spot how the average values are increased overall. 351 watts average, 600 watts average maximum. The heart rate 131.8, so it's just a little bit more. But the time, it's lower, 25.407. More effort is required to clear the section with the heavy wheels. This is about the 10% more, and if I had to put more energy to climb and to clear the section, the speed will also reduce by 80%. I mean, what all this means, what all this number means, easy. Another win for the light wheel set. Light wheels are faster with less effort, of about 20% in total. Climb test number 3, which is the impossible climb. I mean, this is a 340 meters long with 85 of elevation to gain, with 34 peaks. Very steep rock slabs, rock steps, loose rocks, gravel, anything was there, and this is the perfect scenario to kill my legs trying to clear up the monster. No rules there. No watts, no monitor, no cadence, no heart rate limit. Just one goal, make it to the top. No steroids allowed, no aids, no motor, just me and my bike and my ancient way. I've tried a few times with the heavy wheels first because I knew I had to reserve and keep the maximum energy to, in the tank to climb with heavy spinners, but damn, I failed 3 times. Goal X, failed 3 times because I wasn't actually able to climb at some point. You know, I was probably creating too much lactic acid in the legs. Very hard. So all attempts I failed at the 20% gradient section. My leg was just not able to spin any longer the heavy wheels any further. So back down to the start point, I swapped the wheels, took a little break and started the attempt with the light wheels. I started with low power to keep the energy for the challenging part, and magically once I approached the nasty section, I opened the gas and kept cranking power with the momentum meter after meter, and I was able to go to the top. One single attempt, one success. Hands down, test finish. Phase 2, the all-day real-life test climb trail descent. This phase is not something that can be done in a few days. It actually took me 2 damn years to get done. I've logged more than 200,000 meters of climbs, trails and descents, daily alternating heavy and light wheels, and I've been riding Alps, bike parks, went to France, to Switzerland, and of course a lot of trails here in my backyards in Finale Ligure. Nothing could better represent the real life of a typical true mountain biker. About 300 hours of climb, few hundreds of flat mixed trail riding, and a lot of hours of downhill too. I can spend a day showing you all the data I recorded in 2 years, but I make a long story short with 2 examples. 33K, 1,425 meters of elevation, 3 hours, 10 minutes ride, average speed 10K.5, heart rate 150. And then we got the day Bravo, the second day, 35.5 kilometers, so just a little bit longer, 2 hours 49, about 20 minutes earlier, shorter and more elevation, 1,628. With the same body effort, of course you can see here 150 heart rate, 150 heart rate. So it's the same effort on both, and overall actually same effort. So with light wheels, which are these, the 3.1 kilograms wheels versus the 5.7 heavy ones, I was able to ride 2K more longer, faster by 20 minutes, 2K faster in average. And then also the most shocking thing is everything is faster and even with 200 meters more of elevation. What that means? It's easy. The light wheels are the numero uno for the true mountain biking. Riding up, down, no matter. The light wheels are 20% overall faster. Phase number 3, the descent. The first 3 scenarios were isolation tests aimed to verify the real behavior of the flywheels and gyroscope, aka the wheels. I mean the acceleration, maneuverability and rolling resistance of the wheelset, the 2 wheelsets in the test. Then I set up 2 more scenarios to represent the real life of riding, both done in Finale Ligure with an highlighted call to the second of the two tests, the real life test, performed by an external tester rather than still myself. This man is one of the fastest pilots here in Finale Ligure, Fabio Grillanda. He's the pro downhiller guy, Fabio, going to destroy the further lights cross-country wheel set in the test.
You'll see what happened.
The downhill isolation test number 1, it's descending a shallow fire road with no brakes, coasting, no pumping, no either cranking watts on. The track use was the same for the climb phase, the scenario 1. I kept myself quite stiff on the bike, like a goon, same body position, no braking. Then I swapped the wheels, 10 more laps, and these are the readings that I recorded with the light wheels. An average time of 58,617 seconds with an average speed of 25.5, while with the heavy wheels I've recorded an average time of 1 minute 9 seconds 103 with the average speed of 21.6. Quite shocking, right? How is it possible that with the heavy wheels, within 450 meters of downhill, I came like 10 seconds late? Two main reasons here. Do you remember the flywheel thing? Bigger wheels requires a lot of energy to start rolling, moving, and since the test was done by leaving the brakes from a standstill position, letting the bike to accelerate alone without any human power, it's obvious that heavier wheels are slower. And the second reason is that they are higher in rolling resistance. You know, downhill tires are very knobby compared to the cross-country ones. So yeah, these can dry 20 to 30 watts on average, and it's a lot of rolling resistance compared to the cross-country tires. In fact, another things you can spot, check the maximum speed. Average maximum 44, 49, 59 with the light wheels, while all heavy, we got a maximum average of 32. There's a lot of difference, and that's the rolling resistance. No hype. Downhill isolation test number 2. 60 meters, 10 meters of descent vertically, lose 16.7 gradient average. The light wheels, 10 seconds to 9.2. With the heavy wheels, 11 seconds, 5.1 on average. Again, the light wheels are faster. Why? Nothing new. The same reason as the downhill first test. The rolling resistance of the downhill tires is still slowing the things down a lot. Downhill isolation test number 3. If rolling resistance and the flywheels are the main problem of the heavy wheels on both the tests, let's try to increase the gradient to test if the gravity pulls down the heavy wheels to proper speed. A launch from standstill position on a 30% gradient, a very steep section. The time with the light was 4 seconds 415, and the time with the heavy was 4 seconds 782. Yeah, slightly faster with the light, but I want to be a little bit less picky here about the numbers, and I call this test a draw because times are sort of the same. With this isolation test, the number 3, I learned that heavy or light, knobby or slick, sort of, doesn't really matter when the gravity is very strong, able to pull down towards the bottom the bike. But don't forget that your average daily rise may not be that steep, like 36% maximum gradient. So light wheels in theory are still faster for the average moderate gradient downhills. I'm very well aware that the 3 isolation tests do not represent real life, but excuse me, I wanted to firstly record some scientific data. I believe since ages that light wheel on an average slope descent with a lot of braking, lot of speed variations would win against a heavy wheel set. But I wanted to test if in real downhill the slightly augmented grip of the heavier downhill and slower downhill setup would somehow win against the low rolling resistance of the cross-country setup, which has for sure less grip. So let's see how the wheels perform in the real trails in the real life. Downhill test number 4. I've done more than 50 descent on my preferred trail, a trail I know very well, 2.2k long, 280 meter of descent, narrow, nasty loose, fast sections, tight corners, a lot of steep braking and rock gardens. Which wheel set perform better? Well, let's analyze the data. The light wheels have an average of 5.53 minutes with a heart rate of 159, while on heavy wheels we got the same time, but the average heart rate is 166. So it's a draw in terms of riding speed, but it's a win in terms of effort necessary to ride, because 159 versus 166 is a big difference, and it could mean zone 3 riding here instead zone 4. For a trained man like me, 45 years, less effort equals I can stay longer, I can stay more concentrated when I ride, I can ride longer and get less tired. For instance, I can not sustain 10 bike parks descents of 5 minutes at 166 beats per minute heart rate in zone 4 and 5-ish, while I can for sure easily maintain and withstand, you know, the 10 runs at 159, which is my zone 3. Still not zone 2, which is the chilling zone, but zone 3, it's manageable for a few hours, you know what I mean, 1 hour and 1 hour and a half. But let's leave alone stopwatch and heart rate for a moment. How did the light and heavy setups felt on the descent? The unscientific analysis, I mean. Well, the heavy setup gave me the perception of augmented thrust. I felt more confident on the bike, more stable, less vibration, more grip, easier to brake, and the bike felt somehow a little bit slower, I mean harder to start turning, and it was more physical. It was more difficult also to recover from washout. But on some very hardcore rocky section, I felt faster because I was not scared to crack a rim or something like that. I mean, yeah, sadly the rolling resistance and the flywheel effects were so big that the bike felt slower in most of the easier part of the trail. So the heavier setup felt overall safer, but is actually slower, it felt slower, and for sure less enjoyable to sprint up and to lean into berms, because I required, well, this forced me to use more power, of, you know, more energy. But let's see what, yeah, let me think about the light setup. I mean, the light setup was, I was more on the edge of washing out most of the corners. I felt the reduced grip. I felt less safe, sure. More nervous, more bouncy, but it was easier to move the bike around. I mean, easier to bunny up, easier to stay light on the obstacle. The bike was faster, for sure, and more reactive and less fatiguing. On light wheels, the bike was accelerating so fast This is funny. I had to brake harder before entering the corners because I was gaining so much speed. The downhill test number 5, but yeah, hold on. Before I continue, the discount code. You wanna buy some Pyrope super high-end wheel set and save money? Pyrope have anything from XC to Enduro and even some custom-made models like this one. Drop me an email and we go from there. Say welcome to Mr. Fabio Grilanda, a national downhiller and enduro racer, test pilot, and a star of some of my greatest test documentaries, such as Dorado 36 versus 37, Volume Panino, Local Rogue 1, and a lot more. This guy has skills. He's definitely faster than the majority of the people around. But here comes an interesting fact. He never rode 1 single meter in his life using cross-country wheels. So, what is going to happen today? Will he crash hard? Will he destroy the Featherlight Pyrope wheel set? One minute, 12 seconds, 0.71. This is the average time with heavy wheels, with the best time sit at 1 minute 10.670. Heart rate 180 average with 183 maximum done on the fastest lap. Time to change to light wheels. I was very scared to let him ride my beloved 1 kilogram XC Featherlight Pyrope wheel set. You know, I thought he would come down the train walking the bike with the blasted rim or destroying everything, you know. But damn no, that did not happen. I mean, on the first lap, his comments were not really positive. He came down and say, "Hey Dave, how the f can you ride this crap? I mean, the bike is so dangerous." But yeah, I did not care too much about that sort of comment, because since I'm wise enough to understand that a drastic change in tires and wheels needs time to get used, so I motivated him to stay focused, do more laps, getting some confidence back in with the new wheels. And so he went riding again, you trust me. So second lap, third lap, this is what we got. Time still way slower than the heavy wheels. Yeah, we got a minute 17, a minute 16, a minute 14. So we are still 3, 4, 5 seconds lower than with the heavy wheels. He also began to smile a little bit at the end of each lap, and some comments became positive from negative. He reported that with light wheels, he had to scrub and pre-hop the jumps to prevent to fly and land away too far, comparing when he was riding with the classical downhill setup. Anyway, another lap, and he arrived at the end of the day with a Marlon Brando Pro Cinema DPIC unexpressive face. You know, like I asked him, "Hey bro, how's the time going?" And he said, "Hey Dave, look at the timer." So I moved close to the bike and boom, 1 minute 10.320. This was the fastest lap of the day. Done with the Featherlight cross-country wheels. That's crazy, right? But please note the rate hard effort. 180 average with heavy wheels, while the light wheels, which were done, the runs were done later, so he was tired, more tired. And in theory, when your heart rate gets tired, there's what we call the heart rate drift. This is something like training stuff. So basically, for the same effort, your heart rate is higher at the end of your training session. So basically, even if there is an heart rate drift 177, what that means, it's lower. It means with the light wheels, less effort is required for a given speed. I can now come to the conclusion of my research, so it's time for the final thoughts. Back to initial question, which is the fastest wheel? If you are the average true mountain biker, a man who rides mixed trails, there's a huge time and effort saving using light wheels with basically no downsides. But if you are a classical downhiller and or an enduro rider, in this case, the slope percentage plays a big role to get the debate solved. I mean, on shallow average gradient, trails 15%, 20% or below, the light wheels seems to be still faster, less rolling resistance, less gyroscopic and flywheel effects. So very good gains to make you faster with a marginal trade-off of a bit of less grip. But these are still the winning option. But on very steep trails instead, like Val di Sole for instance, 25%, 30% and even more, weight and rolling resistance are not really slowing you down, even with the downhill standards, because you know gravity is making a very good job on pulling you down. So a heavier setup, the classical downhill knobby tires, you know, should be the preferred option because it offers more protection for blind suicide lines and more grip, especially under braking on steep stuff. Strava, it's very useful way to know the average gradient of a trail. Just open a segment. Oh, let me grab the phone and I show you how it works. Open a segment and at once you get the length, the vertical drop and the grade. And this example, Basenato Trail, the very famous one in Finale Ligure, one of the most known and appreciated trail in this area. It has a 16.4 average grade. Let's do some nerding out. Marco Milivinti, a retired Italian downhill champion, is still the king of the mountain. Since 5 years and no one beat him at 2 minutes 44. Fabio Guilanda sits in third position with 2 minutes 46. Anyway, results are out of 16,524 riders. Well, Strava is not accurate. Well, we all know this. Never mind, we all like to see this data and nerd out, but let's stay concentrated on the gradient, the grade. 16.4. In this example, it's quite shallow, so light wheels will be faster at Basenato, less fatigue, more speed, unless you are a pro. Having said so, never forget that any modern 29 or mallet heavy setup requires the superior skills to be ridden efficiently, because maintaining the momentum constant, aka the average speed, is very difficult with the heavy gyroscope and flywheels. World Cup racers can handle this, but most of you and me cannot. So don't use a very heavy setup unless you really need it and you are able to maintain that momentum high. AKA if you don't brake in the trail before the corners. But since I only see braking bumps in every park and trail around, that means 99% of people brakes a lot and cannot maintain that momentum. But it ain't finished here. No matter the slope, the percentage, and no matter what is your style, fact is, weaker gyroscope and flywheels, lighter, always improve suspension performance. So, even if you are a pro and or a normal guy who rides steep stuff and shuttles all day, buy yourself the lightest gravity certified wheel set, and Fairap's add to it a very good front tire, single ply, can work really well. Like I've got one here, like the Kenda Hellcat Trail so it's very light, but still grippy. No inserts for sure, because inserts adds unnecessary weight. And last but not least, don't forget to inflate the tires with the right pressure. Invest in good suspension, instead drop the tire pressure, never. I've got here this good example of how a light gravity certified wheelset should be. I mean, this spy rope here, it's custom made, and these are very light, but still category 5 downhill approved stuff. I mean, the Kenda single ply knobby tires are very good for the most gnarly lines, so you have a lot of grips. I got smaller disc because I've got good brakes, and I'm fit and keep my body weight down, so I can stay on 180. I mean, for enduro, easy. So I'm saving on unsprung masses. And the saving on this spy rope wheelset over a classical wheelset is in the 200-300-ish grams for a pair. And overall saving, yeah, it's very good. And if we add the tires and no insert and all the other stuff, we could end up in the 600 to 800 grams range of saving over your actual setup. So would this saving be something you really feel when you do Finale Ligure enduro shuttling days downhill? Yes, for sure. The performance gain of a setup like this, it's crazy high. So do it now. But back to initial question, which is the most reliable? A lighter thing may be more fragile than a beefy one. This is the reality. Nothing to argue here, but the number of blasted light cross-country tires and cracked rims, carbon, in my whole 2 years of tests, it's 0. Lots of the stuff around in mountain bike industry is overly built to extra unnecessary standards, and I'm also sure a lot of people out there ride low pressure looking for grip, maybe because their suspensions are not performing as good as promoted, but yeah, aka your suspensions are crap. So lowering tire pressure forces you to increase the tire sidewalls, which is weight, the rim width, which is weight, and all this adds weight in your system, in your wheels, and the extra weight increase the flywheel and gyroscopic effect of the wheel, so the bike become worse to ride, slower and less reactive, because wheels are too heavy. And not your everyday trail, it's more steep than 25% gradient, a gradient where the gravity will helps you to be faster. So it's a endless death loop, because normally when a guy breaks a tire of a rim, the first thing he does is replace with a stronger component, which is normally heavier, and heavier makes the things worse because flywheels and gyroscope are greater. Closed loop, you got me? On top of this, the more heavy is the wheel, the slower it will move away from the obstacle on hits. So higher and higher are the chances that the tire is pinched on obstacle. In worst scenario, you crack the rim. Game over. Go light instead. Reduce the unsprung mass, inflate the tire as they should, and firm up your compression, fork and shock, and magically you stop destroying things. And you will ride on crests of the bumps instead getting, down in the travel and destroying things. For instance, on the same square hit where you may blast a heavy wheel, a light wheel inflated at the right higher pressure will move away earlier from the obstacle upon the hit. And so even if the rim is lighter and more prone to break, and the tire is more flimsy and more prone to break, you'll end up breaking nothing. I did a dedicated suicide test to demonstrate my theory. I hit a square concrete hedge at 25 kilometers average. I was totally stiff on the bike, so no human help to absorb the hit. And this is what happened. Dual ply downhill tire at 2 bars, 600 grams tires, 2.2 wide at 2 bars. Both, they were identically, substantially deformed, but data confirmed that with the light wheels, the suspension started to move, compressed earlier. This means that as soon as the light wheel hit the object, the wheel moved away from the object like this, away, preventing the tire to be pinched. On the downhill casing instead, the heavy wheel compressed itself first, the tire, and the suspension started to move just later, after. So the tire actually did the first part of the work, but and the suspension did the rest. A much less balanced distribution of the task. A tire is a tire. A tire has no damping, no rebound. A tire is a stupid piece of rubber. I prefer not to leave the bump absorption task to brainless piece of rubber tires, and I prefer to assign the task to my high-end suspension. Makes sense? Yeah, let me open a comma. Check out this slow-mo shot of Fabio Grilanda shredding at Basenato on rocks with the cross-country 2.2 wide tire, inflated at the right pressure for him of 2.1 bars. No rims damage, nothing blasted, and I remind you, Fabio, with this setup, cross-country share, time the best timing in Finale Ligure typical track. Comma closed. Bonus question, why people normally destroy light stuff? Simple answer, because they inflate tires too low. Frankly, I've been riding several rims and wheel sets from 1 to 2.2 kilograms range, and I rode different type of tires from half a kilo to 1.5 each, and I strongly know and determine that for most of you, a light setup would really improve the riding fun. While for a very small and limited group of people like workout pros, there is a real need of riding the extra strength and grip of that classic heavy setup. But most of us really don't need it. Most of us are not Bruni, most of us are not like those guys jumping 20 meters on Instagram, and most of us are not like a pro. We are not fast like those. We cannot maintain the momentum required to be fast with heavy wheels. The real world is different, and are you aware of this? So we don't need what the marketing push, and we cannot use the equipment that World Cup racers utilize. We are not skilled as they are, and high are the chances that they are paid to use what the company gives them to promote, no matter if they like or not. The same concept applies for geos, progression and chainstays, and the cantilever mountain bike stems. All wrong, but still used in 2024 and sold and promote. So you gotta build your bike to the real needs that you have. So stop trusting what big brands believe is right for you. So back to initial question number 3, does wheel weight impact suspension performance? Yes. With light unsprung masses, the suspension is better. And question number 4, the last one, does it make sense to spend money into wheels? Definitely. Spend your money into light wheels now. My final call to all the real riders is to invest today in light unsprung masses. Have a think and don't believe the hype, and all for now.